From Wall Street to Main Street, this is LALATE.
It's a big evening of evenings at LA with incredible great news about your fourth stimulus check package of 2021. In this fourth stimulus check update of 2021, the president's about to leave to go overseas on a Thursday with no deal hatched completely with the recon. The deal is really close to the finish line, but is not over it, and now that recon vote would likely not happen as well. We'll go over the details across the board. A deal is likely to happen, but not today, and it didn't happen yesterday either. So what does that mean for us? I have the latest details tonight. Then, LA told you so. Americans don't know what's in the recon, and we did not know that 25% of the recon is being consumed by climate. What went wrong across the board? Then the price is right. The price will stay at $2 trillion. Joe Manchin's call for a 1.5 number early this week not happening. Good news on that. The president's holding his ground. But then the program's in, program's out. The big issue is the dental, vision, and hearing. The core parts of the progressives, still a battleground, and no negotiation on them yet. And also the medication. I have the latest details on which provisions got solutions. They did. Big provisions got solutions today. Great news on that. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven. That's across the board. And then COLA raise, your fifth stimulus, is right behind that. But as we go into a big evening, what really is so shocking and so different than afternoons? What's really surprising is that the president saw a real big flurry of activity on Tuesday, but that flurry of activity revealed several solutions, but not a lot of others. What was fascinating is on Wednesday is the president really started to bridge the gap that was there with 98% of the recon done. And now some Democrats coming forward and saying, the recon isn't as done as you thought of all the details in a big evening's recording. The great news of the recon is happening. The great news is that the progressives are holding their ground. They are not voting like lawn chairs. They're ordering in more extra patio furniture. It all starts right here, right now, as Evenings LA gets underway. Everybody, I hope you're having a beautiful day across the board. A deal will be happening with the recon, but the big question is, if it's not done by the end of Wednesday, then when? Then when? That detail comes as we now learn that 25% of the recon is being consumed by climate. Americans don't know what's in the recon, and no one else knew that the recon was being consumed by $550 billion for climate. The price is right. It stayed at $2 trillion. That's good news. Programs in and programs out. We have some solution on a major program. That is a big breakthrough. I'm very excited about that. And then we turn to the student loan debt as more debt could be forgiven across the board. Whose debt is coming up next? And then we turn to fifth stimulus. It's a big recording across the board of a little bit of commentary of the situation as Americans are trying to figure out what next, because the president goes overseas Thursday for a climate conference. What's next in the negotiations? Because leaving Brian D.C. to take care of it ain't going to get anything except maybe a Yale sweater. I have all these incredible details and more as we go into a big evenings of Evenings LA starting right now. So subscribe. 400,000 subscribers is a YouTube record for a reason. The most comprehensive, in-depth, by the hour and across the hour coverage of the recon. Do not think that the negotiations are over today. No, there is a push to get them done tomorrow, if not the day after. And we'll have all those details as well. Like the video, 3,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Let's go right into this recon. The recon was passed in a subcommittee of the House several weeks ago at a $3.5 trillion price tag. While that price tag no longer surviving, the provisions so far surviving quite well, and they'll pay you upwards of $15,000. These programs are brand new programs. You've never seen them before. They weren't part of first, second, or third stimulus. They've never been a part of the landscape of this country, and they're programs you qualify for. Single parents, without children, with children, married, unmarried, seniors, young people. employed, unemployed. $15,000 you're going to qualify for. And it's incredible. They're across 3 clusters of checks and some add-on. Let's go over those 3 clusters of checks and their status right now. Hazard pay, we don't know the status of that. That is the earned income tax credit, broaden the eligibility, increasing the amount of money. We are informed that the $4,000 of elder care survived because we have home health care surviving in there. The money for Pell's Grant, college students and tax-free Pell's Grant and university grants survived as well. But the CTC reduced 1 year, $3,600 to $3,000 if you make $60,000 or less per year. The money for home repairs, if you live in a low-income community, believed to survive because it's part of the home provisions, housing provision of the recon, which did survive. Then the bikes, cars, and trucks, all electric, all U.S. auto manufactured, believed to survive. 15% for the purchase price of a new electric bike, $7,500 for a new electric vehicle, a little bit more if it's for business use rather than personal use. That survived as well. Now, the $25,000 add-on, that first add-on from Maxine Waters, not surviving at that price point, but may have survived. Why? Because the housing provision survived. That's great news, which is rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, home repairs, and maybe this provision as well survived. That brings us into the second cluster, and that home repairs survived, weatherizing your home. Let's go over the status of the items in the second cluster. Family leave and medical leave survived, but a wide price point. Stay with me. We got a lot coming up. I have a big rundown of what's in, what's out. Provisions changed dramatically today, so stay with me. Big details coming up late in this evening's LA broadcast. Household tax credits believed to survive. Pre-kindergarten, we think it survived. Community college, either out or at 2 years. And then the weatherizing your home. It survived because it's part of the housing. Weatherizing your home, which is different than winterizing your home. Winterizing your home is, putting up that beautiful Christmas garland. No, weatherizing your home. You definitely need to weatherize your home, especially if Kristen Sinema comes knocking, asking for campaign donations. Just lock the doors quickly. You got to get the Kristen Sinema weatherizing protection across the board. Now, the second add-on, it survived, and it's great. It's for my seniors and my people on disabilities. It's the home health care. A Biden campaign promise. He wanted $500 billion. Then Bob Casey wanted at $250. It survived. It's not $250, but it's going to be a little bit less. It's home health care, totally free for my seniors and my disabled people, which brings us to the third cluster checks. What's the status on them? Get ready. You're going to be shocked on some of these. Here we go. Money for the free school meals for all, believed to survive. Cheaper prescription medication, survived but wrong. That's coming up later in this video. I'll explain to you why. Farmers, we don't know. Free internet, we don't know. Clean energy, out. Then workers, independent contractors, we don't know. Medicare expansion survived and solved today. I'll explain to you how it got solved. Lowering the eligibility of Medicare, we don't know. We believe it survived. And dental, vision, hearing survived, but still not fixed. It's one of the items that is the real bread and butter of the progressives, and it has not been fixed. And it's a big part of the second half of this video. Stay with me. Now, the third add-on, that MSC IRS stimulus check. Boy, if you've ever seen a week like this, it embodies everything you want it to embody. Why? When you look at the IRS monthly stimulus check, what are you looking at? You're looking at Democratic progressives, House and Senate. You're looking at Pramila Jayapal. You're looking at AOC Omar. Guess what they said today? They said, you know what, we got to get our stuff in there. You don't start putting our stuff in there. We're not agreeing upon the situation. Wow. We had Liz Warren saying, I have confidence it will become good. I mean, it's not good yet. She wants you to have a monthly IRS stimulus check. And you have Bernie Sanders and Chuck Schumer really part of the equation. And they're big. Why? Because Bernie Sanders sells Donnie's wife, Donnie and Debbie Applegate and other viewers. He's going to insert this as a monthly stimulus check. Several places where they can do it. House side, Senate side. They can do it before a House vote, meaning they can do it after we have a House bill. If it's not in there, they can put it in by amendment before it's a House vote. Then we have the Senate Vote-a-Rama, a 2-day event where the senators propose their amendments to the changes. And that Vote-a-Rama has the opportunity to add things across the board. Brand new on Evenings LA right now. You're hearing this for the first time ever. There's a quote out today. It's about the roads and bridges, not the recon. About the infrastructure, not the roads and bridges. What does Nancy say? She says, I want to make sure that the roads and bridges is fully agreed upon so that we can send it to the House, no amendment. We can send it to the Senate, no amendment, no Senate vote-a-rama. Yeah. So that is regarding the roads and bridges. But this is why you have to advocate. Could imagine if she had said that about the recon? Yeah, you would not be a happy camper. You would not be a happy camper. Not to say she has any way to say what happens on the Senate side. But this is why you have to advocate, because as to roads and bridges, she's talking about removing the vote-a-rama. Yeah. So be very, very careful. This is breaking news right tonight. Let's go over the details. Chuck Schumer's in charge of the vote-a-rama. He determines what does the vote-a-rama, not Nancy Pelosi. And he wants to put it in there, so you need to advocate. As Jennifer said in the afternoon show yesterday, how many calls have you made to advocate today? Absolutely. How many calls have you made today? Let's go over the advocacy and why it's so important. The message comes from the number one senator to the recon, his chief of staff. Let's lead the message. They now have in total between congressional and senatorial offices received more contacts of advocacy from the LA Purple Power than the number of signatures in the American petition. Everyone's amazed by the outpouring of touching stories. Now they have a better understanding of what Americans are doing to get through this pandemic. They have heartbreaking stories and they have voice of the people. In LALATE, as LALATE have become too large to be ignored across the nation. Very kind. Let's read the last statement on air together. That last sentence together says, please continue your encouragement for the continued advocacy as a professional voice of the people. You have become and continue to push until this becomes law. Very, very kind. What does this mean? You got to advocate. You have to advocate. If we've ever seen a day like this, we have never seen where everyone was advocating tooth and bones. Pelosi and Pramila having a meeting and Pramila saying no, Pelosi saying yes. Yeah, these are friends. They're going right to the bone to advocate. You do as well. You heard earlier today on Afternoons LA, 3 o'clock right before the show, that they're trying to take a quarter of the recon for climate. Yeah. I normally say, don't say this provision doesn't help me. I need this money for me. This is a situation where you need to advocate and say, hey, Americans, I'm hurting. My family's hurting. My community's hurting. I know the climate's hurting, but you don't need to do the climate right now. You need to take care of me right now. If there was ever anything that really inspired you to pick up the phone and call, it would be that revelation today. 50% of the recon is now being, 25% of the recon is now being dedicated to climate. This is $500 to $550 billion. Pick up the phone and advocate. In the second half of this video, we'll go over the breaking news as several programs got solved today. Great news as they got solved, but what has not gotten solved? Why is the president going overseas? Why is that trip overseas very important? How much of this recon is being done? We were told 90% of the recon was done. I said it would be about 95%. Is less of it done? And is why the last 5% the critical part? It is. I have all those details coming out the second half of this video. We have a huge evenings recording tonight because as we go from Wednesday to Thursday, guess what happens on Thursday? The president goes overseas and the president leaves the negotiations to who? Brian DC? Not going to happen. A deal's happening. But when, how, and where, we'll have all the incredible details because guess what? Today, tomorrow, Friday, very critical. I'll explain to you why. LA told you so. Americans don't know that a recon exists. 90% of Americans don't know a recon exists. 10% can't tell you the recon, what's in that recon. But today we learned that even us, we did not know that $550 billion of a $2 trillion recon is for climate. No bueno. Then the price is right. It's staying at $2 trillion. That is good news. It's big tonight. After concerns that may drop to 1.5, not doing it. Then programs in, programs out. Programs need to be revised. I have the latest breakdown. It is a big shocker. We have great news across the board. Then more student loan debt could be forgiven. That is coming up in the second half of this video. And then the big COLA raise. Boy, we're just getting started. It's a big afternoon's broadcast. And the excitement starts right now. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as we go back over the breaking news tonight. It's really getting dicey and spicy. I'll be back with you in 60 seconds as Evenings LA continues. If you want money right now, not 5 days from now, and not 5 weeks from now, then reach out to the community page. The volunteers can help you find that money for rent and utilities. That's at news.la.com/community. The community page features a series of volunteers who are viewers like you. They can help you find rent, utilities, SNAP, food benefits, mortgage assistance, and help you with eviction moratorium questions as well. Their Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram individuals reach out to them and indicate the city and state you're from, and they'll get back to you shortly. That's a community page. Volunteers working for you, viewers helping one another. Stay with LA for more. Join LALATE daily for the excitement of the new LALATE live daily. The excitement starts on mornings LALATE at 9 a.m. Home LALATE returns at 11 a.m. daily. And then afternoons LALATE at 1 p.m. Join us daily as the excitement continues live from Santa Monica on LALATE. And excitement continues right now on Evenings LALATE as a deal could be happening. But is this guy the guy that's going to be left to negotiate the recon? Brian Deasy can barely negotiate the sale of a Prius, let alone your recon. I'll go over all the incredible details tonight as we look over where that recon negotiations will happen with the president leaving our shores Thursday morning. LA told you so. Americans don't know a recon exists, but we didn't know that 25% of the recon is being consumed by climate. No bueno. Price is right, $2 trillion. That's good news. It's staying there. But what about the other items across the board? The program's in, the program's out. I have the latest details and the rundown tonight as we do have progress. Several programs survived and several programs got fixed. This is brand new tonight as people try to figure out if that stimulus is on the pier and she's trying to find it. Everyone always asks me that question. Student loan debt, more debt could be forgiven. That is big. And then we go to that COLA raise. That COLA raise is right behind it. Those incredible details and more as we go into a big evening. We're just getting started, and I'm very excited for you across the board. It's a big night. It's going to be a big tomorrow, and boy, is it going to be a big weekend as we try to see what can be done with the president here and with the president gone. This is LA, America's only 24-hour day, 7 days a week, financial news channel. Live in the morning, taped in the afternoons. Coming up next is Evening's Countdown. Big show, and then we got shows at 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11:30, 3 and 3:30 until I'm back with you tomorrow morning at Early Mornings LA. All about forced stimulus. Same programs, just different details across the board. Don't miss any video. Like this video and consider becoming a member to get that newsletter coming out in 2 hours from now. Yesterday we saw from Bernie Sanders the angst about not getting the negotiations ramped up for the dental, vision, and also hearing. I had told you on Tuesday, if they don't get progress on that by Tuesday, problematic. Didn't get progress on Tuesday, didn't get progress on Wednesday, did not get progress today. So the question is then what's happening? Let me give you the rundown of where things are right now. First, big surprise, they got a deal. They got a deal on how to pay for the recon. They are going to be raising $400 billion to pay for the $2 trillion recon by a 15% corporate tax rate on 200 companies with at least $1 billion of taxes. That will generate $400 billion. Great detail, great agreement on this one. This is agreed upon by Manshima. Manshima have agreed upon this. Then, also big agreement. A Manshima agreement after Joe Manchin ran the numbers and showed Biden that your Yaleys didn't run the numbers right. What's at issue? It was the Medicare expansion. Medicare, Medicaid. Let me go over the details. You saw it in the last 2 days of this channel. Joe Manchin invited to Delaware to have a breakfast with the president, Joe, and then brought some Yaleys, Joe, and Josephine. The bacon was delicious, but the conversation not so much. What did Joe Manchin say? There's a problem, Mr. President, because we cannot have Democratic states like West Virginia having to pick up the bill for Medicare and Medicaid in states that are Republican, like Texas. He was right. What are they trying to do? They're trying to expand Medicare and Medicaid everywhere. Everyone's on board with this among the Democrats, but the problem was the Republican governor states would be offering it for free and not paying for it. So they didn't have a solution for it until tonight. They do. great. You got to praise Senator Raphael Warnock, Democrat of Georgia, and praise House Majority Whip Jim Claiborne out of South Carolina. They came up with a solution for it, and this is big for those states that wanted to offer it for free and not pay for it. Then, what also is good news today, also good news, is that you and everyone else agreed that Ron Wyden's provision is dead upon arrival. What was Ron Wyden's provision? Ron Wyden said yesterday and the day before this big press blitz about this program, and people said it was new. He said, I've been talking about it for 2 years. Well, why are you just talking about a lot yesterday? It was a provision called the Bank to IRS reporting provision. And what was it looking to do? Every time you deposit $600 or more, the bank would have to report it to IRS. Really? I could have told Ron Wyden this was not going to work. Just call me up and I would have told Ron Wyden, yeah, because guess what? Every time everyone deposits that second stimulus check of $600, you have to report that to IRS. It makes no sense. Here is why it also didn't work. Banks weren't going to do this. Banks can barely, tie their shoelaces. If he had called me, I would have told him, Ron, I did this video in all of 2020. As soon as PPP went live, banks couldn't roll it out. They couldn't roll it out. Chase, B of A, they couldn't get computer programs to go live with the PPP program. Do you think they're going to go live with reporting anything over $600 deposit? That would be, they don't have the staffing to do something like that. So the great news is that you and I didn't like it, and everyone else didn't like it as well. Nancy Pelosi didn't like it. Joe Biden didn't like it. Joe Manchin didn't like it. Everyone didn't like it. And even Richard Neal, who is head of the House Ways and Means that would actually go over provisions like this, he said he's not doing it. So it was great news. It's dead upon arrival. What else did we get an update about today? No progress on the dental, vision, and hearing, which really has seen no movement since Tuesday. And what we did see was great surprise from the progressives. On Monday and Tuesday, I said I was worried if the progressives were going to fold like lawn chairs. 11th hour, 95% of the recon done. Are the progressives going to roll over and not do anything? Great news. Progressives did not fold up like lawn chairs. In fact, they called up the rental company and ordered more patio furniture. It was great. What happened? Pramila Jayapal and Nancy Pelosi had a meeting. And what was talked about that meeting? Nancy Pelosi said our agreement, Jayapal, was that if I gave you a framework for the recon that we could all agree upon, that you would allow the progressives to vote in favor of the roads and bridges. That was not the agreement. That was not the agreement. And what would Jayapal say to her friend? She said to Pelosi, that was not our agreement, and we're not doing that. If you call the vote on the roads and bridges, I will block it again. Wow, I love it. I love it. So what did the president do? The president had promised us, after the last debacle last month, where Nancy tried to call a vote on the roads and bridges. Well, she tried to, but never actually physically called the vote. The president said, we're never going to call the vote on the roads and bridges until we have an agreement upon the recon. The recon's not agreed upon. It's not agreed upon in framework. It's not agreed upon in detailed framework. It's not agreed upon in a bill. So what did Jayapal actually say? She said last month, right before that vote was about to happen at 9:45 p.m., I think it was, that particular Thursday night, Jayapal told her caucus, we're not doing frameworks. We're doing voting on recon bill. And guess what she told Pelosi yesterday? You're going to love it. She said, there must be a vote on the recon, and it must go first before the roads and bridges. We're not even doing framework chatter as a reason to say we're done. Ron Klain, not on my Christmas card list, who is he's the chief of staff of the President of the United States. He said that Pelosi should go ahead and call the vote on the roads and bridges. Come on, Ron. Not good. Then, how much of this recon is done and how much is not done? Pelosi said 90%. I said 95%. But I said the writing on the back end, not 90%. So we had some quotes coming in today that said maybe it's not so much done. Here come the quotes. Brenda Boyle, Democrat from Pennsylvania, who moonlights as a stand-up comic, because there's a great line. Here's her line. We're just missing two things in this recon. What exactly is going to be in it, and how do we pay for it? Other than that, we're good to go. Yeah. The recon is really good. It's almost finished, with the exception of no one knows what the world's in it. Yeah. And then Jeff Merkley, Democrat out of Oregon, who is Mr. a reality check. He says there's just huge pieces of this recon that haven't been nailed down. So each time I hear someone say, we're almost done, I don't know what the hell that person's talking about. I love him. So for Chuck Schumer says, the recon is within reach. That was Chuck Schumer's comment today. Whose reach? Smurfs? I don't know who can reach it. I can't reach it. I have really long arms, so I can't reach it. Joe Manchin, we have progress on that. So the Joe Manchin IRS bank reporting scheme, schema, is dead upon arrival. And that's as Joe Manchin had that beautiful breakfast in Delaware with Joe and Josephine and Joe and Joe and Joe and Joe. And they had the bacon, but they didn't have the scheme worked out. Joe turned to the president and said, Mr. President, you can't do this. And the president said, everyone looked at each other and said, who the hell came up with this one? That was the actual quote. And then the president turned to the staffer and said, Joe Manchin's right. You need to take this out. Well, Bernie Sanders' comment from yesterday, which reflected my opinion the day before, is still the same situation today. Let's go over what this situation is. Number one, this is Bernie talking. The number one item on people's minds is being ripped off by pharmaceutical companies, that they're tired of overpaying for pharmaceuticals. It needs to be in this recon. That paying for 10% than other countries because you're an American is not fair. That pharmaceutical companies currently have 15 lobbyists in the Senate walking around trying to prevent us from getting pharmaceutical reform in there and preventing us from figuring out how much you pay wholesale on pharmaceutical medication. Guess where those 15 lobbyists are? They're in Kristen Sinema's minivan. Yeah. All bills must have Medicare negotiations to lower cheaper medication. There is a new article out today about Kristen Sinema. It's longer than War and Peace. It's longer than the Star Wars saga and the trilogy and the pre-Star Wars. What was the article about? No one hears from Sinema, and no one is friends with Sinema anymore. It's very sad. It says that she was once really loved by the Democrats, really liked by some Republicans, beloved by Democrats in her home state. And there were a lot of people who started fundraising for her early on and were still her friends. They gave her $300 a year. In the last year, no one has seen her. No one of her original core group has seen her or heard from her in over a year. The only people that have heard from her, the pharmaceutical companies, of course. She has a very big war chest. So why is she doing this? The article says. It's basically her political aspiration. Either she thinks she's going to be the future president of the United States, not going to happen, or she thinks she's going to be the head of a major corporate company, a major company after she's not reelected. I think that's happening. Then number two, Bernie says the second priority on people's mind is that we're the richest country in America and people do not have teeth in their mouth. They cannot hear with no hearing aid, and they cannot see. Any recon must have serious negotiations to expand Medicare to those issues. Well, that was Bernie on Tuesday saying that. That was me saying that on Monday. I said on Monday, you got to get this done. Bernie on Tuesday saying we haven't gotten it done. Wednesday, still not getting done. And in fact, no serious negotiations on this. Bernie did admit he had negotiations with Joe Manchin Thursday and Friday last week, but no one has really addressed the bread and butter of the recon, dental, vision, and hearing. And if you don't, then who's going to do it? Brian Deasy? Not going to happen. One of my favorite moments of today was reading articles where they basically talk about Brian Deasy, but not naming him. What do they say? Remember that quote yesterday from the press secretary when asked, well, the president's leaving town on Thursday. How is he going to get this recon done if he's not there to negotiate face-to-face? Because he's the only one, the president, who's doing great work with his face-to-face negotiations because he's been a senator for 370 years, as he quoted, as he once said to CNN. So the press secretary yesterday said to press, there are phones on Air Force One. He can get it done. And I've heard there's phones in Europe. Well, I said, how dare her say that condescending remark? Guess what? My best part of the day was press ran the same article. They said that the president has left no one in control that can get the negotiations. Brian Deasy ain't going to do it. No one even answered the phone call from him. Remember when there was that vote for the roads and bridges on that Thursday night a month ago. And the president sent DC and a few other guys and gals over to negotiate with Bernie. He's not going to listen to these people. They're 40-year-old people that have never worked barely in public servants, not DC, but other people. And they're not going to listen to it. So the big question I have tonight, coming up in the commentary, is what next? That's coming up later. I'll have that in a second. So Steny Hoyer and Maisie and Pramila Jayapal, all their comments come into full circle tonight. We didn't know what they meant yesterday. We know what they mean today. Jayapal yesterday said, don't take progressive votes for granted. We now know why she said it. Because she's basically saying, don't play games with us. Don't try to call the roads and bridges for a vote. Now, here is where I forewarned you. I told you earlier this week that I expected Gothenheimer, that Democrat from New Jersey, to say, call the vote on the roads and bridges on Thursday. Well, we now know that Nancy told Jayapal that maybe she would call the vote. Try it, Nancy. It's not going to happen. It's going to die on arrival because there's 60 progressives. And if they never wanted to vote on it before, they're really not going to vote on it now. Then we have Steny Hoyer, who said, you have to act like you're winning. Otherwise, Americans won't believe that you're winning. You're not winning, Steny. I mean, just be frank with yourself. You're not winning. The only thing that's winning is the price tag, which is staying at $2 trillion. That's great news. So we do know that the president's stubbornness about the $2 trillion is working. Well, it has to work if it's $500 billion for weather, for climate. Because if the climate is a quarter, $500 billion, then suddenly you have to stay at $2 trillion. LA told you so. But I did not know that the recon is being consumed by a quarter by climate. It was a revelation I revealed first on Mornings LA Today, and it came out. No one had ever heard this before. It's no bueno. So how can they get a deal done? Where would the price tag be? The question is, who's negotiating come Thursday? The president on the phone? No. Broadcast media, several print media today said the president needs to do his face-to-face negotiations. He's pulled out all his stops. He's had the lunches at his private residences. He's had the meetings of the White House. That is the top tier of negotiations. What's left? Going backwards and having a staffer like DC negotiated? He can't even negotiate the crouton at Soup Plantation. The price is right. Good news on this. Mazie Hirono, Democrat from Hawaii, said, we need it at $2 trillion. We're not going to do 1.5. Yeah, absolutely. She said she was very concerned about Manchin mentioning 1.5 on Monday. Good news on that. We're not going to 1.5. But here's the issue, is that $2 trillion to 1.7, it costs you $300 billion. That costs you 1 to 2 programs. So what programs are in, what programs are out? What is the rest of the reaction today? Jim McGovern, I love his comment. He's a Democrat from Massachusetts. Says we're not calling the vote on the recon on the roads and bridges until we have an agreement on the recon. And Liz Warren, bless her heart, senator, progressive, not part of the negotiation. She says, I just want to see a good deal. Thank you, Liz. I do too. We just haven't seen it yet. That's why she says that verb tense. She hasn't seen it yet. And she says, I'm optimistic they're going to get it done. I am too, but not today. And of course, the best news is as we go into a big evening that we do not see people folding like a lawn chair. Jayapal had said a month ago, 1.5. She said, never going to happen. And Bernie Sanders, when asked if he could live without dental vision and hearing, he said, non-negotiable. The great news, the progressives have not only not folded like a lawn chair, they've ordered more patio furniture. I love it. Let's go over the provisions, where they are right now, and what is the status on them, and where are things going. So we do have some provisions fixed since yesterday's evening's LA, some provisions not fixed. Let's go over the rundown right now. Child tax credit, staying at 1 year, $3,600 or $3,000. That's if you make $60,000 or less. Community college, we don't know if it's in or out. President says out. Jayapal says out. Other people says in, 2 years or less. Pell's grants, staying in, they're tax-free. And the grants to universities and students. Okay, here's the new progress today. The Medicare, Medicaid expansion, it is expanding across those other states, which everyone wanted it to, but only if those other states have to pick up the tab on it. Warnock and Claiborne fixed it. Bless their hearts. They fixed it. It's solved. That's good news. The dropping the Medicare eligibility age from 65 to 55 or 60, It looks like it's happening. Bernie wants at 55, Casey wants at 60. The Medicare expansion, the dental, vision, hearing, not solved yet. More about that in a second. Paid leave, 4 weeks, employees only, low income. That's where it is right now. That's in there. I don't like it. It should have been 3 weeks for gig workers as well. Pelosi started 12 weeks for everyone. Then prescription medication. Here comes back that article that's longer than War and Peace about Kristen Sinema. Bernie says not happening where it is right now. Where is it right now? Medicare Plan B prescription medication solved. I thought that was good. It's not enough for Bernie. One viewer, I love my viewers. Explain to me what Medicare Part B is. That would be insulin and diabetes medication. So it's good, but it's not the end. It's not the solution. Bernie wants more. And this is where Sinema and the 15 lobbyists is a big concern, because guess what? You can have Joe Manchin on board, you can have everyone else on board, but what happens if that program has not been bridged with Kristen Sinema? And I think that this is where Kristen Sinema is a big issue, because those 15 lobbyists are in Sinema's back door, if not somewhere else. Childcare, it's in there. Good news, just shorter duration. Clean energy out. Health insurance, boy, I had a nice viewer send me a very kind comment on Instagram saying, I can't pay it. It lapsed. It's gone. Please advocate for it. Please advocate for it. We need it. I am. You need cheap health insurance for all Americans. They got in there. Shorter duration, though. Housing aid got in there. Thank goodness. This is huge. It's not just housing. It's rent, mortgage, home repairs, the Maxine water provision. It was $300 billion. Then it was out. Then it came back in at 100, then 150. It's about 175 at the moment. Good news on that. Home health care. Wow. I'm surprised they got in there. This is a big win. President Biden, his campaign promise, it was supposed to be 400 billion, 500 billion. Then it's now at 100, 200 billion. Seniors and people on disabilities. SALT, which is the lifting the cap on state and local tax deductions, out. Obama subsidies out. Which brings us now to the dental, vision, hearing problem. So there's a lot of problems with this. First, dental reportedly, according to Pelosi, if you implement as law today, would not become effective for 5 to 6 years. So what do you do with people's teeth for the next 5 to 6 years? Vouchers, but they're proposing them at $800. I don't think that works. I don't think $800 dental vouchers works, because one tooth, that doesn't even pay for a quarter of a tooth in Los Angeles. So I think it needs to be a bigger number. Bernie says Sanders is not coming out. Omar says not coming out. So the great news is that for the first time, we really see some big advocacy coming in from those Democrats. Now let's go over student loan debt forgiveness and COLA raises, and then a little bit of my opinion of the situation. Student loan debt forgiveness, more debt should be has been offered to be forgiven by executive order. Democrats should take it. This is a big one. And this one should be taken. The Democrats have been offered by the president $10,000 of additional student loan debts forgiven across the board. The president should take this. Why? Because this would be a lot of money. The president already forgave 3 rounds of student loan debt. He first forgave student loan debt for individuals who became disabled after graduation. Then the president forgave student loan debts for individuals who went to work in the nonprofit sector after graduation. 10 years after graduation, now forgiven. Then, the big one, the president forgave people who went into the public sector, city, county, state, federal government, for 10 years after graduation. Your debts have been forgiven. But the $10,000 offer, they should take it. The COLA raise, wow, this is getting exciting. We have one of the top legislators on Capitol Hill saying, get ready for fifth stimulus. We're going to put it in there for the additional raises. COLA. It's going up. You got the letter. You got the letter from your administration, Social Security Administration. Your benefits are going up next year 5 to 6% starting January, but that's not it. Fifth stimulus comes right behind it if it becomes a law, and it has 2 steps up thereafter. First, a raise your benefits up if you're on SSI, SSDI, Social Security Railroad benefits, one big time. Then applies a new benchmark. The new benchmark is inflation. And this would be great. That would mean you would have 3 lifts in 1 year. First, this is coming in January. Then, as soon as fifth stimulus becomes law, a second lift. Then a third lift after that. They're going to remove the asset cap, remove the income cap, and remove the marriage penalty. House Budget Chairman John Yarmuth, Democrat of Kentucky, says, do this by recon. He spoke to Pelosi. She says she wants to do it next year. Force the Republicans to vote against it. And I don't see the downside in election year because it's great stuff to be done. He's basically saying do it by recon and get a big win for the American people and get a big win for the midterm elections. Finally, if you haven't become a member, what are you doing? Become a member today and get that newsletter that comes out Monday through Friday, 7 p.m., 2 hours after this video. It features all the big money under first, second, and third stimulus, like rent, utilities, mortgage assistance, home repairs, home appliances, people from shelter into shelter if you're homeless people, clothing. Features the 5 nonprofits, features the statement from Treasury about the additional money for rent. People are getting upwards of $40,000. As we figure out if fourth stimulus settles down, hasn't yet settled down yet, I'll be bringing third stimulus back into the equation and the recordings of this channel. But for now, get that newsletter. It comes out via the YouTube alert system and the LALATE alert system, written by me, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. The LALATE alert system is totally free. Hit that alert under the video link. It's at news.lalate.com/alert. And become a member today. Finally, my commentary as we go into a big night. My commentary tonight is different than my commentary on afternoons. My commentary on afternoons was the inclusion of the $550 billion price tag of the recon climate provision was a mistake by the president. It should have been its own recon. Tonight, my commentary is what's next. I'm very fascinated to see what's next because the president, I got to applaud him. He got this recon going by really being hands-on. We have always liked a leader or a political official who's hands-on. At some point, he was not hands-on because you saw during those breakfast meetings with Joe Manchin on Sunday that with staffers present, that Joe Manchin said, you can't do this, can't do that. And the president said, yeah, he's right. Who wrote this? The president should have seen that before. But guess what? Those people are now in control while the president leaves on Thursday. I understand the president has a telephone on the phone to speak to people, but the president's not going to call into Bernie and say, hi, Bernie, what's the update? The president's not going to call into Joe Manchin and say, hey, Joe, I'm calling from wherever it is, Switzerland or wherever he's going. What's the update? The president needs to be face-to-face. Who's going to do it? Remember what happened when that vote for the roads and bridges was attempted last month. The president sent over Brian Deasy and several other people to negotiate the recon, to negotiate against the progressives. Are you going to negotiate against Pramila, Ilhan Omar, Bernie Sanders, Liz Warren, AOC, as Brian Deasy? No. Can you imagine the visual? Brian Deasy in a WWE SmackDown with AOC, Omar, Jalapal, Bernie, and Liz Warren. I mean, he can't even survive against Liz Warren. It's just, I can't look at the situation. It's laughable. So my question is, what's next? President needs to get back in town. That's the what's next. The president, I understand you have other obligations. I understand as a president, you got to do a lot of other things. You got other world events you got to attend to. But I need to see that president back in town. I need to see him back in town negotiating. Now, here's my message to you. That is not for you to say, oh, the president's left, so I'll check back on you in LA when the president flies back in town. No. That's not my message to you. My message to you is I need to see what the president's going to do starting tomorrow, because that's going to be a critical turning point as which we see, okay, now the president's gone. We don't have dental, vision, and hearing solved. Then how are we getting from A to B? And are we having Ron Klain do bad stuff, like saying call the vote on the roads and bridges? And Steny Hoyer, who seems to be very level-minded during this process, saying, I don't want to show another loss. Well, you'll see a loss, Steny Hoyer, if you call a vote on the roads and bridges and it's blocked by the progressives. I want to see progress. And I saw some progress today with Warnock and Claiborne solving the Medicare expansion. That was a big one. I don't want to see clutter. And what's clutter's middle name? Ron Wyden. Yeah, Ron Wyden with that crazy provision that became the mockery of everyone yesterday and today. I don't want to see clutter. I want to see things that are focused, getting things done. And guess what? I don't want to hear Nancy saying we're not doing votoramas. When Nancy said that as to the roads and bridges today, I want to make sure the roads and bridges agreed upon with no amendments in the House, no amendments in the Senate, and no vote-a-rama. No, Nancy, you ain't going to do that with this channel. A vote-a-rama is our friend. Amendments are our friends. You ain't going to do that on this channel. So you want to make sure that all these cogs of the wheel are aligned, not maligned. And with that, it's going to be a very, very fascinating 24 hours. We ramped up very, very quickly early in this week. We saw a big battleground on Tuesday with the dental vision hearing. It did not improve on Wednesday. Where is it going to go on Thursday? I have to see where the progress is made on the dental vision, because if you don't get it, then I'm running the same commentary from Tuesday. You don't get that done, then you don't get the rest of the recon done. You have to get the biggest things fixed. And it was a big thing getting that Medicare expansion solved today. But then what's next is everything else. And with that, subscribe. We got a lot of shows coming up tonight. We have our big evening's countdown coming right after this, and then Street and Stimulus. Last night, we had a 3-hour binge block all the way into Sirloin. We have this, we have Countdown, and we have Street and Stimulus. Tonight will be much the same way. A 3-hour binge watch where you can just sit back. The video will just keep on spidering it to the next video, automatically taking to the next one. You don't have to do anything. And then Sirloin, you can go to bed. Like this video, 2,000 likes, and consider becoming a member. Purple Hawk, Purple Power Casino VIP. Stay informed, keep on advocating, and stay with LA for more.